CAA is currently undertaking a strategic repositioning and expanding the scope of the organization, taking the lessons and leadership of our learned society into the 21st century. It is necessary to do so now in order to actively address the challenges and changes affecting the visual arts and humanities at unprecedented speed. This transition will enable us to strategically position CAA for long-term sustainability, meeting the needs of all of our constituencies. It will provide opportunities for social entrepreneurship. It will enable us to build a technological infrastructure that ensures effective and efficient operations.
When we reach this moment of crisis and deep emergency with the collapse of the government, which of course I'm also very much related to and feel very responsible for in some odd way, repairing this damage that has been done. I have since that moment been quite involved in efforts to try and help all of these people who invested so much in the dream of these 20 years, the dream of building this new Afghanistan, of rebuilding Afghanistan.
This project is very much in process. I joined a board called the Patronato San Javier in 2016 and have been working with them extensively on the preservation of the church you see pictured, which is Mission San Javier del Bac near Tucson, that sits on the Tonatam reservation near the village of Bac.
What I saw was a very rich and diverse range of submissions. Again, our membership is not just artists and art historians. We are diverse art practitioners. And so you really do see that diversity in the submissions. And we do understand, we do examine the numbers as well. We can break down things into numbers. I believe when we look at the submissions and the presentations that are going to occur, we have about 40% that do represent art history scholarship, and then we have about 40% that's going to represent artistic interests and practices. And we also saw artists and scholars coming to this year's conference wanting to talk about our response to COVID and the digital shift that happened. And so we do see a number of presentations that will touch on this, and we definitely try to be inclusive and attentive to the emotional need to address these issues and conditions that we are still dealing with.
Susan's book timing was brilliant because somehow, or maybe it's art history's timing is brilliant because right after our first century, we've embarked on the biggest change this field has ever known because it's happening in three ways simultaneously. We want a very different kind of faculty than we used to, one which is much more diverse and inclusive. We're radically changing the subjects that we study, and we're also radically changing the medium in which we work. We still publish books, but we all know that we have to adapt to not only publishing online and collaborating with museum colleagues who do so much of their work online, but we've also had to, in a horrible, desperate rush, learn to teach online.
I'm really thrilled to be able to answer this question. I started a program in direct response to the COVID pandemic. We really came up with the idea in April, right? We were all sent home in March. And then around April, we began thinking about how we could support our communities to get through this difficult time. We didn't know that we'd still be doing this a year later. And so for me, I do see trauma, like personal trauma, connected with the larger systemic issues of racism and oppression. But the program is called Art and Empathy, Community Care Through Art, and we were really thinking specifically about COVID. But of course, we know that those COVID has connected and highlighted the ways that systemic oppression works.
Hello there. I am Jordana Moore Saggese, an associate professor of modern and contemporary American art at the University of Maryland, College Park, and the editor-in-chief of Art Journal. I am absolutely thrilled to announce our new Winter 2020 issue. This is a very special issue for me and a project that has been 2 years in the making. It is the first in the 80-year history of Art Journal to focus explicitly and intentionally on Blackness.
It really was a mix. There were people who felt incredibly motivated to have this time. Somebody described the pandemic as a horrifying gift, this ability of time to be able to regroup with old projects that they had left behind. And then others lost their motivation because they didn't have anything that they were working towards at that time. So I think there may have been something for artists that there's often that I'm working towards this next project, this next show, this next event, that just sort of disappeared and was a really hard motivational factor to get around.